Okay, hello everyone. Welcome to another episode. The abstract is a miracle in the void, or appears to be. Human beings have many relationships with many things, but the one thing that they have, every human being has an immediate relationship, but is not a thing, is the mind. And so the abstract is as important as reality when we wonder about where it comes from. And it seems to come from a space of, you can say, the inner experience where the person has seen reality and is allowing reality to deviate or become more malleable in their inner realm. When we think about the roots of intelligence, I mean, you could look at a tree. You look at a tree and you see the vastness of its branches. You see the fruits of its work, but you also see that its roots are not in the visible realm. And so the roots of the tree exist, yet are not visible because of the soil. And I find that that soil in modern times can be intelligence. That means the abstraction to me appears as a revelation of of a more multidimensional event taking place. Many scholars have debated the nature of the world, how the system appears, and some scholars, they have systemized it in a very linear, breaking it down to particles level, but some people feel that it's not per se like an engine we can suddenly comprehend, that this universe also has a dimension where it appears like a story, you know? When I think of the abstract, if it has no connection with reality, it has no meaning. That means something can occur in front of the person, but if they can't relate it to some sort of reality, it's meaningless. So that's the thing. Like right now, for example, I can right now see this tree in my yard. Now I can also imagine suddenly all the trees levitating from the earth and their roots being in the air. Like imagine all trees 10 meters in the sky. You're seeing the roots of all trees alongside their branches when you look up. Like imagine if trees were just hovering in the air. You could even walk underneath the tree, underneath the roots of the tree hovering in the air, you know? So that would be a sense of it becoming more abstract. It deviated from reality, either in direction or in speed. That means you can say the abstract is noticed anytime there is one reference and there can be another on it, upon it. Now the definition of abstract is also important to look at. Existing in thought or as an idea, but not having a physical or concrete existence, dealing with ideas rather than events, not based on a particular instance, theoretical, denoting an idea, quality, or state rather than a concrete object. There we go. And those were the nouns in as a verb. Consider something theoretically or separately from something else. Um, Extract or remove, withdraw, abstract oneself. Yeah. So that's the thing. That the abstract relates to the mind, and the mind isn't an object. Yet the mind is perceiving objects, measuring them, doing everything, but the mind doesn't appear like an object. The brain is an object, but how we are a self is just, it's like literally you turn on the lightsaber and the light is there. Do you know, it's like we open our eyes and we are a self, you know? And a lot of it is habitual. It's based on how we have lived. It kind of like every person is mastering their basic living. And aside from that, it's the implication of the value of the whole thing. Because when I think about the unknown, you are actually left with the abstract. It's as if like throwing a spear of knowledge at an unknown sky, or throwing something at a mirror, throwing a light beam at a mirror and it reflecting back. We are living lives as people, yet it's real and unreal. When I think about what attention is doing in a cosmos, highly unreal, you know? But when I look at what it is being, it's like you can't deny reality. When you look at a statue, it is there. But when you look at that statue, if you were to close your eyes, it can come alive. It can move. And the mind is a higher dimensional life bestower to anything that is in the attention. We don't realize this, that we are recycling life through life. There is a savageness to life where it's as if everybody to some degree is left as a burning candle in their own presence. There's a poetry from a poetic image from the work of Rumi. Rumi, he animates this love story between a moth and a candle flame. And Rumi says that many nights pass by where this moth is spinning around this candle flame and they're lovers. That means see the moth as, imagine the guy, and the candle flame as the girl. I don't know how Rumi shared it in his poetry, but pretty much they're lovers. And after so many nights, the moth suddenly flies too close to the candle flame, and the wing of the moth burns. And as the moth is falling down, in the tragedy, in the middle of the tragedy of such a love story, the moth looks at the candle flame and says, "How could you burn me when all these nights I flew to keep you busy, to keep you company, so that you're not alone?" And that's where the candle flame turns back to the candle flame's light is also going out. And the candle flame looks at the moth and says, "How could you think I would burn you, where all these nights I have been burning bright to keep you warm?" And it was this sort of unavoidable tragedy of two worlds trying to find one love, And that's the thing. We all begin in our own room, our own existential room. And the way I am suggesting that the pilots should pilot is that after you find your heaven, the pilots of consciousness, the advanced communicators, they will find their heaven quickly. You will find your individual heaven quickly, only to notice the collective hell. Then building the collective paradise becomes the game of light, matter, and sound. The great alchemy. That if you understand your knowledge is sound waves, if you understand that your body is particles, that if you understand the meaning of all, the whole room is in your eyes are the secret bearer. They are the secret torch where its light could have never gone out. That's the thing. I have had many many people be dishonest to me, dishonor me. It's just natural. This is life. It's not like a perfect system. But one thing that I could not ignore, one thing that whatever happened in life, whether I did the right thing, the wrong thing, or the right thing was done to me, or the wrong thing was done to me, it was that there was something here. I can't tell you. This is one of those emotions that it just you're left with. That a system you have been playing games of meaning in, suddenly the player, it doesn't have the same intensity. Right now, we are a cult civilization that has the attitude of purchasing. We want to get things. We want things already made. And here's the issue. It's like in a civilization where everybody wants pizza delivered to them, Mr. Within is saying that we have to each become pizza makers. And each life is like a pizza with its own toppings, you know? I think some Italian pizza maker has just gone into samadhi by hearing me say that. But that's the thing in life, that it's your free will doesn't define the meal, but it defines like the salt and pepper you could put on it. You know, the joy and suffering you can see from the system. There's moments of rage where the person feels they merely exist to break and be broken. And then there's moments of joy where the person feels they exist only create and rebuild. Where it's a sort of joy, you know, because for me, it's like it's very hard to have joy and to actually find happiness when you realize I don't want to say it's hard, but I'm saying like it's like it's like you have to step out of reality. This is why when I see some people who have an artificial happiness, it's as if somebody who's put in a box on their head in a battlefield where they need to have their attention to the game, to the games of living. You know, spirituality has its place, and seldom is this said, but it's never outside. You know, I found it interesting that we say the sun rises, but we say the day rises, but the night falls. And it's as if we don't have the term the night rises and the day falls, you know? And so it's so much of it is language, you know? Philosophers have discussed it, that if you have two spheres spinning around one another, Which sphere is spinning around which on a sphere in a vacuum? Where is up and where is down? And if you can notice how directions in the void are a sort of mirage in a desert of inconceivable energetic flux, so then humanity realizes we can't play the truth game, because the question and the answer both appear to be over our heads and over our language. So when the human species is done searching for truth, it will begin to work. What that means is the person, when it's done searching for truth, it will begin to work. What I mean by that is, like, you're on an island and there's a ship in the distance, and you raise your hand and you shout at the ship and nobody sees you on the ship. And so the only choice you have left is really to now make do with whatever the island provides you. And for me, believe it or not, even though I am living in Toronto, Canada, and I'm living in a very civilized and well-off country, but at the same time, I feel like I am on an island when I wonder about our neighboring galaxies, when I wonder about the cosmic landscape. We're so infinitesimal. All the people who I have thought they were my enemies, or they were resistances, or there was some sort of a force again going against me, all of these disappeared when I realized we're just ants on our own hill. And what glory, to some degree, you know? That means, honestly, if it wasn't 2020, I couldn't as easily as I want to say we have to build an advanced civilization. You know, it's like time had to pass so that man could look at time anew. And so the roots of intelligence are experiential, and if abstraction appears as a miracle in the void, it's another way of saying that us naming ourselves in the void is miraculous. That the fact that an object evolved to a subject to itself is a strange miracle, and it's a miracle. It's a miracle until what can I say? A simulation inside a breath, a simulation of meaning inside one moment where the creature is breathing. For me, I wonder, should I look at the color? Should I look at the depth of the dimensions? Should I look at time? Should I look at space? Should I race against time? Should I make space for a new concept and notion of time? Even survival of the fittest has had to do with imagination. A lot of theories on evolution have to do with something occurring to this creature that we were. Either we have a lost parent in our descendant line, descending like in our lineage as evolutionary creatures. There was like some interaction between maybe a human and some higher dimensional entity, who knows? Or it could have been, for example, how Terence McKenna he says that chimps used to be grazing and they would eat pretty much cow dung, where it had like certain plants in it, like mushrooms or something, and it altered the sensitivity of the eyes of the creature so it could survive better. I playfully entertain the notion of evolution, where I say it was pretty much like a spaceship came, like imagine a spaceship pilot, okay, and this spaceship pilot literally like didn't know how to use the controls for a second, and the spaceship came down, but it didn't hit Earth, and the waves, the radiation from underneath the spaceship hit, let's say, a group of chimps. And there was suddenly like a huge shift, you know. What it was is actually the emergence of two selves, you know. It's literally like you have 0 and 1 as an initial dualism of the psyche. First there's nothing, then there's something. Okay, kind of like an on off. But after you have 0 1, you have 1 and 2. And so 2 is a different kind of duality. The relationship that 1 and 2 have. I'm saying this metaphorically. That means let's call it an unconscious duality is 0 1. The conscious duality is 1 2. And what is 2? It's two ones. Pretty much there is nothing, and there is pretty much like space, and there is matter, and this matter is replicating itself in space. That means all the numbers can come back to 1. So technically, this is hilarious. We can say, aside from the numbers 0 and 1, all the other numbers are illusions. They are mirages. They never existed. They were all just 1 in multiple dimensions. You know? That means you have 1 times 2 equals 2. Do you see? It's like we reached a sort of mathematical glitch. So it's like for the first time it would be a number set. I mean, it's pretty much binary, you know? 0 and 1. That means 0 and 1 are the only real numbers, potentially. And what's going on is that matter has repeated a pattern. Pretty much it's like, what is evolution? A sort of cellular habit, no? A sort of complex collective cellular habit. Because if we take things only materialistically, we're just a unique energetic opportunity. That means we can think of ourselves, all right, I'm just a human being. This is so common. There's human beings everywhere, you know? So, and then you can just go live a life where you, let's say, just do things that have no contribution to your civilization. Okay, let's say you just live like a hermit's life. Then it would be a situation where you were a creature with such levels of sophistication and intelligence, yet you did not engage the intelligence of your universal sector. That means it's like non-duality sometimes defeats the purpose of having eyes. So people have to be careful, because as a system becomes more chaotic, people may want to become non-dual more quickly, not realizing that if they have to learn from their archetype, they have to learn from their illusions. For me, the idea of me is incredibly abstract. The idea of me changes by the whim of my attention with a certain response to feeling. And what I feel is that the objects and subjects at the disposal of the attention that is being the whole moment, they are actually servants of it. And we don't realize that the mind of man is a karmic event. That means it's literally attracting so many forms to come and experience modes of life. You know, sometimes I feel when a human being interacts with an animal, you know, or a human being pets the head of a dog, you know, it's like it becomes a moment where it's as if like literally think as if we are literally like aliens to that dog, you know? And yet we invite it to the dimensions of humanhood, you know? There's a story in the Puranas where there is a yogi, and this yogi was on some Jainist level. And so that what happened was, like, I'll tell you a story. I think this is the accurate story. There was this yogi who was just meditating in the middle of a field, and there was this king where a bunch of random guys were carrying him on this giant board. Do you know, can you imagine like one of those kings that's sitting on a chair on a board, and like a bunch of men are moving the board as if like they're his car or something. And so this yogi is meditating, and this king is passing by with like all these people moving the king on this board, like the chair of the king, kind of like crowd surfing kind of way. And what ends up happening is that they see this yogi just meditating randomly in the middle of a field, and the king's like, "Hey, you random person, come and help these guys carry me." And so they force the guy to go and help carry the king. And what ends up happening is the king is like, "What is this? This is being so rocky or whatever." Then they see the guy the yogi that was meditating, they told him to come and help him carry the king. What the yogi does is like he's trying not to step on a single insect. So the whole thing's being rocky, and the king's like, "What are you doing, man?" And the guy's like, "I don't want to kill insects, you know. What are you doing, you know?" And eventually the guy gives some enlightening speech, I don't remember exactly, to the king, and the king suddenly changes in his character. And the yogi goes and he's back into the forest and he's meditating. And as he's meditating, there's a deer. There's a pregnant deer that runs into this river, and a tiger is chasing it. And this yogi sees this pregnant river, and the pregnant river, the deer gives pretty much birth to a baby deer, and the yogi saves the baby deer in the middle of the river or something. And so the yogi takes care of this baby deer every day, and he's trying to be in this ultimate meditative state. So when he dies, his attention didn't flicker away. And what happens in the story is, in the last moment where this man, this yogi in his meditation, is about to die, he suddenly sees the deer isn't there, and the beer. The deer isn't there, and the guy suddenly thinks of the deer. He's like, "Where's the deer?" And right in that moment, he incarnates as a deer his next life when he dies, because that was the attention in his mind. I feel that we have to master our outer realms and our objective realms. Our species must conquer that dimension. Then we must master our inner realms. This doesn't mean control. This doesn't mean dominate. This means we become acquainted with the intensities of the actual reality and order. It's as if for the first time there's coming a need for every person to throw away every idea they have and dare to look at this world once again. Do you know? Because sometimes your soul doesn't break out of its chains unless it sees the chains it can break. Do you know? And what it means is that there must be an intensity for something more. Do you know? And that's the game of civilization. I'm not talking, because think of it this way: when I'm speaking, when I think of civilization, there's always those who are exiting it, and there's always those who are entering it. You know, as if some people were born to leave the city, some people were born to come to it. You know. And so I am talking about those who care for this system just in case, let's say there's a potential of reincarnation. You know, so many books, ancient books are suggesting the idea. So let's say there is a potential. Let's be so advanced that we're considering the possibility. So if there's the possibility of reincarnation, for the first time there is coming a sort of need for an eternal responsibility. That means because we're thinking like temporary beings, we're actually not trying to be responsible for this eternal vision of human continuity that we have. So that means we have to either choose one side of the coin or put the coin aside and totally work with a new model. The latter is the best ladder. The latter. Sometimes I have noticed that the future generations harbor lessons that it took our past lifetimes to learn. You know, the future generation is being born with a strange, innate ethical update. And you know what that means? It feels like there's literally a waiting room. I honestly feel that's what's going on. I feel that our psyches are portals, but we don't realize we're in both worlds at once. Imagine you saw a portal, a Stargate, and you went in with your shoulder first. Your right shoulder. So then you went to a point where the portal was dividing you from the middle of your forehead, and your left side of your brain was in one side of the portal, and the right side of your brain was on another side of the portal. So both of your eyes was seeing two dimensions at the same time. And that's the faculty of the mind, I would say. The mind is like the glue that sticks together all this random sensory perception. That means it's like, I think we as a creature totally realize everything is random. Then, then we're like, all right, we gotta have class though. We gotta be a bit classy here. So we started conceiving things, you know? Because honestly, I wonder. I have seen a lot of human beings. I've talked to a lot of human beings. And I have noticed that we are never who we communicate ourselves to be. Language is a finger pointing at a distant glow. For direct experience is the road of all roads. It is the final lesson. You know, human decency, nature. I remember in 2016 when I went to Iran, there was a moment, there was a situation where long story short, my father needed a permit for some cottage, and we had to go talk to the mayor of this town in the outskirts of Tehran, you know. And I remember it was me, my brother, and my father. We went there and we sat there for a moment, and we started hearing, like me and my brother were hearing my father's dialogue, you know. And then at the end, I believe it was my brother, he asked a very insightful question. He asked the mayor, what do you think is the most important thing society needs? And the mayor was like this kid who had probably like graduated from it, like had gotten his master's and had come to some, you know, distant cottage in a distant area in Iran and was like becoming the mayor. You know what I mean? And what he said was that people need to be honest. That's why society is fucked up. Because people fear to be honest. That means dishonesty is somehow has been become synonymous to strength. And that's the blindness of culture. That any time we accept an unnatural system, we have taken one step closer to inner extinction. You see, it's not just the body of the human being that needs to continue. It is the mind, it is the potential. That means, what's the point of constantly reproducing if the world of our grandchildren is not going to be um, uh, proper? You know, it's like the earth is like a house party where 8 billion beings are partying in it, and they're like, all right, at the end, I don't have to clean the house, I'll be gone, so I could do whatever. And that is such foolishness. You see, there is a type of foolishness, again, the honest fool and the dishonest fool. The dishonest fool, oh my God. The honest fool, hey, not bad. To study the abstract is to study the mind. I feel there is no such thing as an artist. We are an artistic animal. Literally, nature is like, we're nature's artwork, technically. Space is the canvas, matter is the paint, and light is the brush. I mean, isn't it fascinating that we even have the concept of the void? I think time is really not real for people. That's why we have to wear watches. That's why we have to keep remembering it, recreating it. It's like a disciplined person is endlessly recreating a potential in their mind, you know? And here's the thing, some people, they want life to be easier, but some people, they do something strange. Sometimes I have implemented this model in certain areas of my life where I've went to some situation where things have been against me, and I have welcomed that force that has gone against me. Something strange, do you know? And people would be like, you're welcoming your own resistance, do you know? And I have welcomed it in the sense that I have let it take place, and I have watched it, and whoever becomes the watcher first in the moment has the least karmic expression. That means I pretty much move less than my opponents, and then I see their mistakes. You know? And this is not something, I mean, this can be implemented to chess, it could be implemented to whatever. But at the same time, there is also this view that you are trying to to complete the ultimate challenge. You know? I had a mathematics teacher in middle school, and his name was Mr. Tehrani. And he was a very cool guy, and he would he said that he had this, so in Iran, like, the high schools are very complex because they have a very challenging examination at the end of it, you know, to go be able to go to university. So this mathematics teacher was telling me that in his youth, when he was like young, he had this physics exam of the most complex physics, the most complex type of physics, and he had this very complex, again, this physics exam where he hadn't studied as much as he should have. Then he realized the exam is coming up. So imagine being an incredible physics student, but now there's the most serious physics exam of your life, you know? And pretty much you're not ready. So what he does, Mr. Tehran was telling me, what he did was that he attempted the hardest question the teacher of his class had shared, like the hardest question fathomable, the hardest mathematical question. And he spent all night, instead of cramming for the exam, solving the most complex physical problem. And the moment he solved the hardest possible question that could be on the exam, when he went to did the exam, instead of there being out of 20, out of 100, like the person getting a grade out of 100, it's like out of 20. So he got 19 point something because in attempting the hardest, most difficult physics problem, he had become acquainted to all the lesser problems. So when you attempt something big, it doesn't mean you win, but it means you see. It's like leaps of a giant, you know? So, guys, I need to relocate. There's going to be a quick intermission. So, stay tuned. I'll be back. Blessings. Okay, so I'm back, guys, to continue. You know, inevitably, every talk I give, if I choose a destination for it, the destination either comes to be an inner realm conclusion or an outer realm. When I say an inner realm conclusion, that means when we close our eyes, abstraction moves in a way where we can witness it to a point of speak about it. That means someone can close their eyes, visualize something, or be in a certain moment or in a certain state of consciousness and just from a no light source kind of attain a sort of experience in their inner realms. So abstraction is a miracle of the void or the other side of reality. That means it's kind of like we can see it as imagination equals zero, which is pretty much the materialistic secular sphere has kind of taken that approach, where imagination equals pretty much zero in realness, you know, in a realness scale. In a scale of how real something is, imagination is given zero. But imagine that imagination was its own frequency, it was its own dimension, and then reality was its own dimension, and the void was its own dimension. You know? So that means reality was sandwiched between zero and imagination, rather than imagination equating zero. You know? That means reality, it has an exit towards an abstraction, and it has an exit towards the void. And what's interesting is we enter the linguistic simulation in an abstract way. People are given names. It's as if we were just named one day. Can you just take that in? It's like children are born and they're like, yeah, these sounds are going to be this kid from now on. Now, the word miracle, I mean, when you look at the title, you see a point of abstraction, a point of the void, and now the miracle. The miracle, what can be said? Let's see how the dictionary sees miracles, guys. An extraordinary and welcome event that is not explicable by natural or scientific laws and is therefore attributed to a divine agency. Yeah, something so unexplainable, you're like, yeah, definitely there's something more than the forces of the laws of nature involved here. And that's the thing. I feel the extraterrestrial is the kind of unknown archetype of the outer realm, and the divine is the unknown archetype of the inner realm. So abstraction or imagination seems to be unexplainable by our language, which is limited to truths that are visible. We have just limited everything to visibility. Yeah, people have stopped caring to see how multidimensional the world is. You know, back in the day, it was like, imagine being in ancient Greece and, you know, somebody says, hey man, do you believe in gods? You know, and the person's like, I don't know, man, I've never seen a god. You know, and they're like, how dare you deny the footprints of gods on the clouds, you know? As if like it was so common. It was so accepted as real. Sometimes I think reality is just the acceptance from one moment. And as the moment changes, that acceptance shifts, and that acceptance kind of feels like attention is the energetic presence of our attention, of our instant attention, is a spotlight for everything that's passing through it. So that means man cannot be defined by objects, man cannot be defined by subjects. Man is wondering if the experience is the definer. That is the conclusion. Pretty much we have free will and we're polishing it, you know? And we're like, yeah, it's us here. So the experiencer is the free will which it has freed itself from the potential of its will expressing only through chaos and order. Because order is subjective, chaos is objective. No, when you look at every particle, everything's moving. It's like nothing is static. Nothing is like a painting on the wall. That means wanting truths to be painted like a painting on a wall. I mean, that's technically you're not alive. You're living in a language game. I'm telling you, the linguistic simulation can totally make us not notice that we are the puppeteer of our own strings. So abstraction is like the greatest discovery. For me, imagination is like a treasure. Honestly, like giving these talks has felt like me trying to figure out what this treasure, inner treasure of consciousness is, pretty much. Because how long can you look at objects? You look at objects for a certain degree, then they all move into context of meaning behind you. So what that means, it's like when a person enters a room, technically it's a universe of various coagulations of self walking in the room, you know? We have to realize that people are just implementing what they know, and if they know something new, they can implement that too. I want to read some quotes for you, go into a quote tunnel, of this poet named Attar. And many people don't know Attar is not the dude's real name. Nobody knows the dude's real name. It's like the dude's name, Attar is someone who sells cologne. So technically, they back in the day, their last names were like their professions. There was something like that. So Attar has some quotes. And he's this poet from, I don't know, where is he from? No, of course he's Persian. He's from Iran, but he's like from 800 years ago, 900 years ago. I don't know. So Farid al-Din Attar. Oh, 1140. There we go. Sufi mystic. 880 years ago or something. 880 years ago. Yeah. Whatever. So, anyways, Farid al-Din Attar. He says the sea will be the sea, whatever the drop's philosophy. Attar says, I shall grasp the soul's skirt with my hand and stamp on the world's head with my foot. I shall trample matter and space with my horse. Beyond all being I shall utter a great shout. And in that moment when I shall be alone with him, I shall whisper secrets to all mankind. Since I have never neither sign nor name, I shall speak only of things unnamed and without sign. And evolution, pretty much in that poem, it's like the evolution of human psychology beyond names and symbols. Attar says, he who would know the secret of both worlds will find the secret of them both is love. Who knew? You gotta love yourself out of this simulation. But when I say love yourself, your self of selves, your species is glory. Attar says, one of the created phenomena is the dream. Behold how many secrets are deposited therein, how many wisdoms treasured up, how many worlds concealed. Attar says, do not be unmindful of eternity, and do not set your heart upon the transient goods of this world. Be patient in the midst of the trials and tribulations of this life, and when things go well, give thanks to truth most high. If you, O human, have found your reality to be one with the whole, W-H-O-L-E, one with the whole, then contemplate the whole, seek out the whole, become one with the whole, and choose for yourself the whole. That means become consciously responsible for the presence of your whole moment. Attar says, the valley of Gnosis has neither beginning nor end. No other road is like the road which is hidden therein, nor any road there like any other road there. Sorry guys, just hang. Okay. The valley of Gnosis has neither beginning nor end. No other road is like the road which is hidden therein, nor any road there like any other road there. What the traveler in the body is other than the traveler in the spirit. Soul and body are forever in a state of deficiency or perfection according to their strength and weakness. Therefore, of necessity, the road is revealed to each one according to his capacity for that revelation. On this road, trodden by Abraham, the friend of God, how could the feeble spider be a companion to the elephant? The progress of each will be in accordance with his spiritual state. Though the gnat were to fly with all its might, could it ever equal the perfection of the wind? Since then there are different ways of making the journey, no two birds will fly alike. Each finds a way of his own on this road of mystic knowledge, one by means of the mihrab and another through the idols. When the sun of Gnosis, S-U-N, when the sun of Gnosis shines forth from the heaven above, onto this most blessed road, each is enlightened according to his capacity and finds his own place in the knowledge of the truth. You find your own place. It's not, that means what if enlightenment was actually a location issue? It's like how you're locating yourself in the meaning of the world. Farid al-Din Attar says if the eye of the heart is open, in each atom there will be 100 secrets. Let love lead your soul. Make it a place to retire to. A kind of monastery cave, a retreat for the deepest core of your being. Farid al-Din Attar says, the home we seek is in eternity. The truth we seek is like a shoreless sea, of which your paradise is but a drop. The ocean can be yours. Why should you stop, beguiled by dreams of evanescent dew? The secrets of the sun are yours, but you content yourself with motes trapped in its beams. Turn to what truly lives, reject what seems. Which matters more, the body or the soul? Be, W-H-O-L-E, be whole. Desire and journey to the whole. Attar says, when first you enter wisdom's sea, be aware a wave of indecision floods you there. Yup. That wave of indecision doesn't even flood you there. It floods you any moment you step into the unknown. Any moment you trust the unknown to experience something new, there will be an intensity. But when the person realizes an experience is not just one dimension, but it's like a seasonal maintenance of, it's literally like in this life, everything is what people are concentrating on. Life is like a concentration, and hard work, it requires concentration. I mean, that's a good way, no? That's a good way for an advanced civilization to treat people as if everybody is a type of concentration, and they can choose to concentrate on a certain part of civilization, you know? Farid al-Din Attar says the fruit of love's great tree is poverty. Whoever knows this knows humility. Yeah, you kind of don't have a choice. You know, being humble is like having nothing, but you're like, all right, let me water the plants at least somehow, you know, like with a hose or whatever, you know. So it's as if it's a total humility is just not wanting anything and watching the world, you know. That's sometimes how I kind of restore my own innocence. That I, in some sense, become as simple as I used to be. And when you remember, when you consciously are simple, then it becomes so easy to become consciously complex. Um, Attar says, this was no friendship to forsake your friend, to promise your support and at the end abandon him. This was sheer treachery. Friends follow friend to hell and blasphemy. When sorrow comes, one's true friends are found. In times of joy, 10,000 gather round. Farid al-Din Attar, and I read this, he says, Attar says, a man whose eyes love opens risks his soul, his dancing breaks beyond the mind's control. Attar says, 1,000 for his love expired each day, and those who saw his face in blank dismay would rave and grieve and mourn their lives away. To die for love of that bewitching sight was worth 100 lives without his light. None could survive his absence patiently. None could endure the king's proximity. How strange it was that a man could neither brook the presence nor the absence of his look. He's talking about the inconceivable life of the universe. He's a mystic, of course, Attar. And Attar says, were you indeed not blinded by the curse of self-exile that still grows worse and worse? Yourselves would know that, though you see him not. He is with you this moment on this spot. That some Dr. Seuss, rhythms in this. Pretty. Oh my God! Imagine Dr. Seuss was inspired by Attar. No way if that's true. It could be though, guys. This dude's from 800 years. But 100% Dr. Seuss had read Attar. Like, I definitely feel he was influenced by Attar, you know? But pretty much he's saying that if you do something wrong to your own expectation of what is right, you stop participating in the event. You know, sometimes for people, it's complex for them to see that they're wrong, to live the moment honestly and pass on, because honesty allows a moment to continue forward. Now, the thing about honesty is that when you realize there's endless moments, there's no point of dishonesty. That means, believe it or not, there will come a time where people will get tired of being dishonest. It's like, what's the point? You know, what's the point? It's endless energy going to abstract identity. We just have to realize the nature of language. That means it has been, I noticed that moment where I was comprehending, okay, let me see in this life, who are my friends, who are my foes, something like that. And then I realized I don't know enough about the enemy for them to be an enemy. And I realized I don't know enough about the friend for them to be a friend. So it suddenly shifted the notion that it's all like one moment's activity. Do you know? And this is where trust comes in, because if you don't have trust in the moment, you can't live. I don't have trust in my body, I can't move. If I don't have trust in my voice, I can't speak. If I don't have trust in the silence, I wouldn't observe. And there's a quote, guys, I want to read from Sadi before I get out of this quote tunnel. Sadi says human beings are members of a whole, in creation of one essence and soul. If one member is afflicted with pain, other members uneasy will remain. If you have no sympathy for human pain, the name of human you cannot retain. That means if you are a human, but you don't care about the human being, then you're not human. Then you're just carrying on the name of the human, but acting like a um, non-human, which is an inner realm. You can say whatever, however way your inner realms appear to you. And Sadi says, have patience, all things are difficult before they become easy. And I guess that's reality. So, thanks for listening, guys. I guess I'm going to open up to Q&A, but also make an announcement before. I attempted this Discord kind of School of Athens 2.0 server thing. And I've recently noticed that it's not an efficient system, because eventually there will be many people joining this server and it's going to get out of control. So I have this plan of maybe like today or tomorrow probably ending this whole Discord thing. And I'll make further announcements later what I feel, which other direction I feel I need to move. But anyways, I'll open it up to 5-minute Q&A, and what I'm gonna do something interesting, guys. People can ask questions, but they can also give me answers. You know, if they it's question and answers. You know, so it's technically people can respond to me in answers or respond to me as question. You know, in a question form. I mean, one thing I should probably do actually before I end off is look at the word abstract. Let's see how many quotes there are for. Okay, this is worth reading. So I'm going to go into another quote tunnel, guys, before the. If anybody has a question, they can ask, of course. Charles says, does the school have a library? If you mean the Discord server, no, but in the Patreon community, there will definitely be a private, like, store for patrons, you know, or something. So anyways, let's read these quotes. Pablo Picasso. There is no abstract art. You must always start with something. After you can remove all traces of reality. No way. No way Pablo Picasso was trying to get. This dude was literally the Rene Descartes of art. After you can remove all traces of reality. Literally how Rene Descartes was doubting everything to see what's the truth that remains. This guy's removing all reality to see what abstraction remains. So you know what it is? Pablo Picasso, technically, his creativity towards art, I think, was a bit like Genghis Khan mentality, like a conqueror mentality, where he's removing all traces of reality. That's like a. Anyways, Arshal Gorky. Abstraction allows me to see with his mind what he cannot see physically with his eyes. Lucian Freud. The longer you look at an object, the more abstract it becomes, and ironically, the more real. Wow, this quote is. I'm just going to share it in case I don't forget it. Oh, wow. Piet Mondrian says abstract art is not the creation of another reality, but the true vision of reality. Vasily Kandinsky. There is no must in art because art is free. Robert Motherwell. Abstract art is uniquely modern. It is a fundamentally romantic response to modern life, rebellious, individualistic, unconventional, sensitive, irritable. Al Cap. I don't know who that is. Abstract art, a product of the untalented, sold by the unprincipled to the utterly bewildered. Yeah, this guy seems to be a classical artist. Robert Gen. Abstraction generally involves implication, suggestion, and mystery rather than obvious description. Robert Motherwell. Nothing as drastic an innovation as abstract art could have come into existence, save as the consequence of a most profound, relentless, unquenchable need. The need is for felt experience, intense, immediate, direct, subtle, unified, warmed, vivid, rhythmic. There we go. Trying to crack the linguistic simulation with a hidden Thor's hammer, you know? It's like Thor's hammer accidentally fell, and you're like, all right, let me use the opportunity to break my linguistic simulation, you know, it's a divine command, you know. Joseph Albers. Abstraction is real, probably more real than nature. Jan Tchichold. Tchichold. Tschio. Oh my God. Chold. The works of abstract art are subtle creations of order out of simple contrasting elements. Jackson Pollock. Abstract painting is abstract, it confronts you. Arshal Gorky. Abstraction allows man to see with his mind what he cannot physically see with his eyes. Abstract art enables the artist to perceive beyond the tangible, to extract the infinite out of the finite. It is the emancipation of the mind. It is an explosion into unknown areas. Well said. Anton Erzwig. Abstract art has helped us to experience the emotional power inherent in pure form. I mean, technically, pure form doesn't have emotion. What he means is beauty. Jean Hellion. I understand abstract art is an attempt to feed imagination with a world built through the basic sensations of the eyes. Robert Brault. Abstract art is a fundamental distrust of the theory of reality concocted by the eyes. Jackson Pollock. Abstract art should be enjoyed just as music is enjoyed. After a while, you may like it or you may not. Abstract painting is abstract. It confronts you. There was a reviewer a while back who wrote that my pictures didn't have any beginning or any end. He didn't mean it as a compliment, but it was. Jackson Pollock again. Keaton Stromberg. Beauty is a type of art everyone is trying to perfect, but no one realizes it's abstract art. Vasily Kandinsky again. Abstract art places a new world, which on the surface has nothing to do with reality next to the real world. Hans Hofmann. What goes on in abstract art is the proclaiming of aesthetic principles. It is in our own time that we have become aware of pure aesthetic considerations. Art never can be imitation. Art never can be imitation. That's true, because it's what's moving the moment. If what's really moving the moment is coming from within you, then you have no doubt that it's you. You know what I mean? Like, your free will is your certainty, technically. Lawrence Harris. Abstract art is a creative interplay between the conscious and the unconscious, with the conscious mind making all the final decisions and in control throughout. Salvador Dali. We're all hungry and thirsty for concrete images. Abstract art will have been good for one thing: to restore its exact virginity to figurative art. Wow. Robert Jen says abstract understanding doesn't mean arbitrary sloshing and messing. Abstract art is controlled visual magic based on laws and methodology. Abstraction generally involves implication, suggestion, and mystery rather than obvious description. Like a good poem, a good abstraction attacks your feelings before your understanding. Abstraction within realism adds zest and excitement to otherwise dull subject matter. Abstract understanding takes time and patience. And you know why, guys? Because the more patient you are, the more levels you see to something, the more chance it has to become abstract. That means if you become a person who master patience, anytime you have to wait, it no longer bothers you. Do you know how much, like, the memories of your future self would be smoother, you know? So in the chat section, Charles says, Toltecs regard the space between things to be the abstract. Electromagnetic field theory would agree. Yeah, I mean, space is abstract for a creature that exists, no? Like, what way can we say space, empty space is real? You know? Charles says the space between things forms abstract patterns geometric of its own. That's very interesting, yeah. The space between things forms abstract patterns. I mean, it's very next level because, like, from a scientific lens, technically space is the only thing that is moving faster than light. It's suggesting a sort of we cannot see the expansion of the universe ever. Yeah, yeah, but Charles, if you bring in volume, you're talking about container, right? But we don't know the edge of the container. That's the thing about space. We don't know. We can't measure the sky because we don't know its edge. Its edge is so beyond us that it's just a mystery. I feel before we actually can truly have a relationship with any sort of extraterrestrial archetype on the surface of the planet. Imagine in the future, there's just like alien immigration. There's actual alien immigration. Do you know? Which aliens are living on our planet? We're living on their planet. Imagine. So, a man goes as far as the noun and the verbs allow. Then one is left with the experiencer. The person sits still and silent, and the experiencer, through the state of the experiencer, the will of the world inputs imagination. So sometimes it's like first the person is moving their mind, then they're realizing their mind is a movement they're in. So that's the relationship with the esoteric, where it's no longer image based. I don't know what these esoteric societies are doing, worshiping images. Like, it's weird. It doesn't make sense. It's the whole notion of it is it's beyond image. And so if it's beyond image, the mystery is so beyond our conclusions of it that it's as if like we can't define the question because the question seems to be more alive than the answers we're giving it so far. So it's like the mystery of the living infinite question. The eyes of man beaming through the void of an immeasurable cosmos, you know. So guys, as the last Discord session, I'm going to share the link. And so this saga of School of Athens 2.0 is coming to an end. You know, honestly, we can't. Life is so, it changes so much that like right before you can believe who you are, you have changed into someone else, you know? So thanks for listening, everyone. I'll see you in the Discord. Blessings. And the abstract is a miracle in the void. If we consider meaning to be abstract, everything is technically a miracle. You know, the moment before it has meaning, we give it meaning. The meaning we see in things, it's like it's a miracle. We see that meaning in that thing. You know, it's a miracle in the void. So I'm telling you, it's like pretty much we're realizing the roots of reality are in an abstraction that is in non-dual soil, technically, you know. So anyways, guys, thanks for listening. Blessings.